Hello, I'm Jennifer Goodman with Good Life Realty, and I'm here today with Travis Young of Studio Momentum Architects. Travis, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me in.
So, we're here today to talk about a few things, including the Modern Homes Tour. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where'd you grow up?
Well, I was born in California, and about junior high time moved to Arizona, the center of Arizona, a little small town called Camp Verde, which was a bit of a culture shock for me. Went to Arizona State University after managing a high school of 300 people, and got my undergraduate degree in design from Arizona State, and then worked for a few years in Scottsdale, Arizona, before I decided to go get my master's, and came here to UT. That's how I got here in Austin.
Got you. So how long have you been here?
Since 91.
Since 91. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So what do you love about Austin?
Well, I like the weather we're having today. You know, it's the nice thing about Austin is that it's probably about 8 months out of the year where you really can be outside. And that's pleasant, you know, early spring and fall. Some of my favorite times here. It's a vibrant city, you know, obviously. Lots of wonderful things happening in this vibrant city, but I do like the weather.
So let's talk about some things that are going on in Austin, to your point, and let's kind of go out and talk about trends and innovations. So my first question for you is, what would you say is the newest innovation in home building?
Yeah, and home construction, you know, it's very interesting. We are notoriously dinosaurs in construction. My firm also does some build, so I've in the last few years done some construction myself. Terribly inept processes, huge amounts of waste, you know, in terms of the actual construction process. And I'm talking specifically about home construction, but all construction really. Coordination of lots of different specialties, and so you have all these specialists. You have the electrician and the foundation person and the drywall person, and they're all separate, and they do their little specialty, and they kind of come together for that one part of the project. And as opposed to being a very holistic thing, which if there was a more holistic approach to it, we'd have a better product, I think, in the end. But in terms of innovation and things that I'm trying to do is really assess all of those different systems and bring them together so we have less waste, better use of materials, much more energy efficient builds. There's no excuse for us not to have net zero capable, meaning net zero energy capable home that's built today, especially if we have any kind of solar access where we can provide solar PV, for example. But the number one thing that I'm seeing mostly in the projects that I'm doing most recently is home automation systems and connectivity to that home automation system from your personal device like the iPad. And not only do you get to control your house and set up your mood with your lighting and there's music before you get home, but you actually get to monitor how that home is using energy. And if you have that information, a kind of feedback loop on the way energy is being used in your house, you can affect that and be a better steward of it, essentially. You know, our buildings use about 40% of all the energy that we produce here in the country, and it needs to be something that we want to be energy efficient. Truly, we need to get control of that, understand it.
That's a lot to take in.
There you go. It just dropped you.
I love it.
A bunch.
So that well, it's interesting because that's the new home construction. How then, let's talk about then what you see that and how that impacts as a trend in modern architecture and how that's impacting sort of more in your world in that space.
Sure. So I am a modern architect. For me, that means lots of different things. Some people, it means it's a stylistic thing. You know, clean lines and open spaces and lots of light and glazing, lots of windows. Connection to the outdoors and shared spaces. Modernism usually means pretty restrained and minimal set of material use. All the clutter is gone, of course. How does this discussion of the innovations in home automation, for example, how does that affect modern architecture? Well, I'll talk to just in one detail. I recently built a house. It's a very contemporary home. It has a lot of these systems, these tech systems, you know, control of the HVAC system, control of the lighting, operable windows for letting thermal chimney effect so they can get ventilation through the house. And all of these systems, blinds, the blinds that come down, so they have some high windows, they want to be able to control those with blinds, and all of those are low voltage systems. I mean, they're not standard AC voltage, they're the 12 volt stuff. And after we built the house, 1 month after they moved in, they got struck by lightning, and it fried virtually all of the low voltage items in the house, including all of the little, we had incredibly efficient AC systems, and all of the chip panels in there with all of the different circuit boards all fried. And so what we did is we came back and we fixed all of that, but we also added a whole house surge protector and surge protectors on every one of these low voltage items. And so along with these modern tech ideas comes other risks, especially in terms of sustainability. You can't, every time you get, have a lightning or you have some kind of voltage surge, you can't have all these systems fail on you. So again, this is not necessarily about the look and the daylight quality, but it is how we operate modern homes, and you need to be. That's a conflict essentially, or it's a problem. How do we manage these low voltage systems in all these tech devices in a new home?
So, what trends are you seeing right now in home design?
Well, I was thinking about kitchens a little bit, and one of the things that we see, and that I've done in the last 2 or 3 years, when I come into someone's house and they're doing a remodel or an addition, and I do some remodels and additions as well as new builds, they have this massive pile of devices and telephones and whatnot all plugged in on their kitchen island. And so
that's attractive.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of these things, right? There's the reality of all of these devices, and then where do we put them? So they suddenly, I've been building all these workstations that are in the kitchen, kind of. They're off out of the side of things, but they have the laptop connectivity. They've got all your charging stations. Really interesting thing. Did a charging station in a countertop that's coming out. There's some new things that are coming out now where you can just put your phone on the charging station. It's actually integrated with the countertop. Those little pad chargers. You can just throw your phone on it and it charges. So a whole station for that, including, you got that kind of tech stuff, and at the same time you got this big chalkboard paint wall so they can mark down what they want to go get from the groceries, which for some reason everybody wanted that too. So yeah, I've seen a lot of that happening. It's a trendy thing. In terms of the architecture of houses, it's pretty funny how this modern farmhouse thing seems to be pretty popular. I don't do them, but I've seen a lot of them. And they seem to be coming up, and I've seen them in the magazines as well as builder trade magazines as well.
So it's not a barn conversion, but it's an actual...
No, it's a new structure, but it has a very high-pitched roof and, no roof overhang, so it's more modern. I don't know. It's kind of a funny thing.
Interesting. What trends are you seeing, and you mentioned this earlier, what trends are you seeing in layout?
Well, I think for sure you just don't see these big grand entryways anymore. There's a more efficient use of space. We're not dedicating areas to formal dining rooms very often. There's ideas that in the marketplace, and architecture is also a product. It's not just a home for somebody, which is what I love to be doing when I'm doing custom homes. But it's also a product. And so you see in builder grade construction, you see these ideas that, well, we have to have a huge foyer, with a massive chandelier in the entryway. And that's one of those spaces that, by the way, not only does hardly anyone ever see, but they don't even enter it when they come into the house.
Right.
They go in the garage, and go into the mud room and into the back part of their kitchen. And so there's just these things I'm seeing a lot less of, especially within the city of Austin, where you're building in existing neighborhoods. You have smaller lots, spaces at a premium. It's expensive, and so you see a more efficient use and a shared use of space in terms of layout. Something that could be a dining room that would be a formal dining room is really now a formal, like a home office, and it's an extension of a living space. It's not a formal room. So a lot more shared use of space and efficient use of space.
Travis, what would you say is your signature style?
In architecture circles and within the education of architecture, really the discussion of style is considered a very superficial discussion. It's a visual kind of like, okay, categorization of the image of a building, either from the outside or sometimes on the inside. But oftentimes it's just the object of the building. And somehow if it has gables and cornice and lots of trim details, it's a particular style of a Victorian era, gingerbread. Or the builder guys will say, it's got a lot of gingerbread on it, Well, then it's this particular style of home. So again, it's talking about surface. Mm-hmm. On the exterior of a modern home, you're talking about flat roof lines and, lots of fields of glazing and materials that are more treated as objects within a kind of two-dimensional composition. Well, again, this is an exterior kind of visual thing. And so for me, style, my signature style, is that I don't even think about that when I'm initially engaged in a project. My style is about the actual process of making a building, which is fraught with all kinds of things. I mean, you have to be really good at lots of things to synthesize a client's ideas about what is modern, for example. They got a magazine image that they like, and they say, that's what I want that. I want no clutter,
No one does laundry in modern lifestyle.
That's right. That doesn't have to.
No.
They have that. You have their budget, the reality of cost, right? You have a site which has a sun and has a certain path of that sun, and you have a great view, or you don't, or you've got nasty neighbors. So you have the context of that. You have a builder or a series of builders that are actually going to make something happen, whether it's a remodel or an addition or a new build. So you have all of these people with all of their own ideas. And for me, I think the art of architecture, especially in modern architecture, is how do we bring all that together to create something that's unique, beautiful, unusual. It's often eclectic because it's not trying to be some preconceived notion of a style. It is only what it is. It's a result of a process, and all of those factors inform it. And I like to be open to that. What ends up happening is that I don't have a very good signature style visually because it's varied. I like lots of things, and I want to absorb and synthesize each thing as a unique new original thing. And so a lot of the work ends up being modern. I think that's a modern mentality of design. So it's not really just the visual, right? It's going beyond that, for me anyway.
So for functionality.
Well, certainly, absolutely. It's people, if you put this, perfect example is that thing about clutter, right? Modern homes, I think they're good. They've got lots of storage. And often that storage is in a variety of means. It's concealed, or it's part of the sculpture of the form of the interior, the space cabinetry and built-ins, and all of that is incredibly expensive, built-in cabinetry. It's one of the most expensive parts of your house because it requires craft and it's expensive material and so many things that make it a very big part of a project in terms of cash flow. So it's a great idea. What else do you do with all the stuff if you can't afford that? Where do you get rid of the clutter? Is there another way? Aside from just going to the thrift store and getting rid of all your shit every weekend, because we amass a lot of stuff, So, yeah, I think that that idea of the style of the thing is, I think it fits so much better. It's more functional. It's better for the client. It costs less. It meets their budget expectation, whatever that might be. If it's specific to them, not to a particular visual.
So Travis, in a world of what's hot and what's not?
Perfect, that's a good question. What's hot right now is the modern farmhouse. People want to have that kind of barn feel and then turn it into a kind of open modern thing. What's really not hot right now is the modern farmhouse. Man, if I got to see another one of them, I'm sick of it. I'm telling you, I don't want to see another one. Anyway, what is? I can answer a little bit more. What better be hot is affordable, net zero capable homes. And that brings housing to a lot of different people. Net zero is, especially for people that need affordable housing, if it's got a low utility bill, then it's even better.
So can we define net zero?
Sure. Net zero means that it uses just as much energy as it can produce. And then you also have to affect lifestyle a little bit, and then you got to be able to have a power plant on it. Be able to have it. Like capable means it could. If you paid for solar, you'd be able to offset that cost. Now, there are projects in Austin that get built for certain cost per square foot. Mm-hmm. A luxury product, for example, could be as much as $450 to $500 per square foot construction cost for the new build for the structure. Whereas production building homes, they still are trying to get underneath 100. Mm-hmm. They got a mass amount of homes, very, vinyl windows and carpet and, hardy plank and asphalt shingle. Yep. And then you have this other end. There's a wide variety of cost. In my mind, there's absolutely no excuse for a home that is a luxury home not to be, if not net zero capable, a net zero home. And that's being a good steward to me. This is a time that if we have a call to arms, I think that's an important one. And Austin is a growing city with a lot of problems that we have to wrestle with. All of the people coming here, what do we do? If we're going to build a home, let's do our best to make it a good neighbor for everyone and use our resources wisely.
Where do you see the future of new builds in Austin?
Any world-class city that I've been in, anywhere in the world, has a good public transit system. And it always has been, and always will be incredibly expensive to build a public transportation system. If we want Austin to be a world-class city, if that's the vision for what Austin needs to be, then we need to really look at how we modify the urban core to allow more people to live here. And the only way that's going to be very successful, I guess there's been kind of two ways that we've done it. One, we said, let's just keep building condos downtown. And then when there's so many people that are just like, oh my God, I got to have public transportation, it'll somehow happen. Because we don't have a good vision for how this can happen, and it needs to. That's how we get this city to be world-class in the future. What is that? So I'm looking for the future vision, and then I want to see an action that goes there. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, our vision is very limited because we have a short memory and we only think about maybe about a year ahead. How can I get to this next thing? What that means for housing in Austin is we have to have a little bit more density. We have to have more multifamily housing. We have to have the ability to transform our inner existing neighborhoods in a way that's sensitive to that context, but also allows more families to live there. And I hear all the time from neighborhoods, that big house, 2-story, destroyed our neighborhood. And to me, the neighborhood is people. It's families, it's children, it's a vibrancy, it's alive, it's changing, and it's moving. And so that means we're going to have some changes. We're going to have some more housing downtown, micro housing, smaller housing. The ADU ordinance in Austin is another good example, I think. And I've done several of these small houses, 850 to 1,100 square foot. I think that's a really good place for Austin to continue to develop.
What's the one thing that you would say right now is the thing that homeowners can do to make their house more eco-friendly?
Austin has one of the first rating systems ever developed for green building. They have the Austin Energy Green Building Program. And I became a member in '96 when I opened my firm. I've rated several of my projects. I've got several 5 stars, being the highest rated projects that you can have. Their level of climate specific, our region specific, energy efficient design, good air quality. So we're not using high VOC paints or formaldehyde content inside our buildings.
Well, there's no excuse these days.
True. We have a lot more information.
And accessibility.
Certainly, visitability, future, living in a place for long term. Mm-hmm. So local material use. Can we get our limestone from here, or do we got to get it from Italy? We don't need to get it from Italy. We've got
Right.
some good limestone. So, I think that is a great place to start to educate yourself about how to make your house more sustainable. I mean, beyond just energy efficiency, but in the whole cycle of that. And I recommend their program. I think if you want to do a new house in Austin, you should look at their program sincerely and try to get your architect and builder involved in that. And that'll be the best way for you to have an energy efficient home and also more a healthy home.
Well, Travis, thanks so much for coming in to speak with us today. I'm Jennifer Goodman with Good Life Realty, and we've been sitting down with Travis Young from Studio Momentum Architects. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.